The wind howled like a dying animal across the frozen Siberian tundra. Snow swirled in thick clouds around the perimeter fence of the remote Soviet military base, Site 72 Alpha, where only a handful of men knew the true purpose of their assignment. Beneath layers of ice and permafrost, something ancient waited. It had started as a routine geological survey. A team of Soviet scientists, under the watchful eye of the Red Army, had been drilling deep into the earth to map mineral deposits. But the instruments told a different story. There was no ore. No oil. Just a massive, unnatural density buried nearly 20 meters below the surface, perfectly symmetrical, metallic, and utterly alien. Moscow responded with uncharacteristic speed. Within days, a convoy of armored vehicles arrived, carrying not just soldiers but scientists, engineers, and one high-ranking general whose presence silenced even the most hardened officers. General Igor Danilov stepped out first, his heavy coat flaring in the wind. Behind him came Dr. Elena Petrova, a leading xenobiologist from Leningrad, her eyes scanning the horizon with barely concealed excitement. Beside her walked Professor Mikhail Orlov, a wiry man with wild hair and restless energy, muttering theories under his breath about what could lie beneath. And watching them all was Colonel Alexander Volkov, a KGB officer, security chief, and the man who would ensure that whatever they found stayed within Soviet borders. "Dig," Danilov ordered. The machines roared to life. Heat drills melted through centuries-old ice. Explosives cracked open stubborn layers of rock. And then, after 2 weeks of relentless excavation, the drill bit struck metal, not iron, not steel, but something dark and smooth, like polished obsidian. A hush fell over the site. With careful precision, the engineers cut a circular opening into the frozen shell. Steam erupted outward, curling into the frigid air like ghostly fingers. The breach widened. What lay inside was not a meteorite. Not a weapon. Not a hoax. It was a ship. A spacecraft. Inside its hollow chamber, the remains of its pilot rested, skeletal, elongated, with a skull too large for human proportions. Its skin was blackened, desiccated by time or exposure. Hollow eyes stared at nothing. Dr. Petrova took the first step inside. Her gloved hand brushed against the interior wall. It was cold, impossibly smooth, etched with symbols that looked more like circuitry than language. "This isn't ours," she whispered. This is something else." Professor Orlov leaned closer, tracing a line of those strange markings. "It's not just a vessel," he murmured. "It might be a message." Colonel Volkov stood rigid at the threshold. He didn't care about messages. He cared about consequences. Behind them, General Danilov turned to his aide and spoke into a secure radio. "Send word to Moscow. Cancel all missile tests. Redirect all funding to biotech and engineering labs. We are no longer preparing for war with America." He paused, staring down at the alien corpse. "We are preparing for something far greater." Inside the makeshift research tent just meters from the excavation site, the atmosphere was electric, not with excitement, but with unease. Dr. Elena Petrova adjusted her microscope, her gloved hands trembling slightly. Before her lay a thin slice of alien tissue, grayish-black, almost crystalline in structure. It had been carefully extracted from the pilot's remains under strict containment protocols. Even so, the air inside the lab felt heavier than usual, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Across from her, Professor Mikhail Orlov leaned over a metallic panel removed from the ship's interior. He traced his fingers along the strange symbols embedded into the surface, muttering calculations under his breath. "This isn't writing," he said finally. "It's code." Colonel Alexander Volkov, standing near the entrance with arms crossed, raised an eyebrow. "Code for what?" Orlov didn't look up. "I don't know yet. But it's structured like machine language. Like something meant to be read by another intelligence." Volkov grunted. "That's assuming it's meant to be read at all." At that moment, General Igor Danilov entered the tent, flanked by 2 officers. His presence silenced all conversation. "Report," he ordered. Petrova straightened. "We've begun preliminary analysis on both biological and structural samples. The DNA is unlike anything we've seen before. It contains sequences we can't map to any known species. Some resemble protein markers found in cephalopods, others are entirely foreign." Danilov frowned. Explain. It doesn't use standard nucleotides, she continued. There are additional base pairs. If this organism evolved naturally, it came from a world where life developed under completely different conditions. Olaf interjected, and the ship. It's built with materials we can't replicate. No seams, no welds, as if it grew into shape rather than being manufactured. Danilov absorbed the information in silence. Then he turned to Colonel Volkov. Secure this site. I want armed guards around the perimeter and full surveillance on every scientist. No one leaves without clearance. Volkov nodded. Understood. Petrova hesitated. General, may I ask what your end goal is here? Danilov met her gaze without flinching. To ensure the Soviet Union leads the next stage of human evolution. She swallowed hard. And if we are not ready for it? He stepped closer. Then we make ourselves ready. Outside, snow fell harder. Inside, the hum of machines filled the silence. In the corner of the room, a containment unit held the last intact sample of alien tissue, pulsing faintly under its sealed glass. Unseen by anyone, the light flickered once. Then again. As if something within was listening. The underground lab was a cathedral of science and secrecy. Beneath layers of reinforced concrete and frostbitten earth, the Soviet Union had built its most classified research facility around the alien craft. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Dr. Elena Petrova reviewed her notes one last time before initiating the experiment. Across from her, Professor Mikhail Orlov paced like a caged animal. This is reckless, he muttered, adjusting his glasses. We don't understand the sample's function, let alone its potential reaction to external stimuli. Petrova didn't look up. That's precisely why we test it. Orlov exhaled sharply. You sound like a child playing with dynamite. Enough, Colonel Alexander Volkov's voice cut through the sterile air like a blade. He stood by the observation window, arms crossed, eyes scanning the security monitors. You have clearance for this. Proceed. Petrova nodded and turned to her assistant, Lieutenant Anya Kozlov, who hovered nervously near the control panel. Initiate low-frequency pulse at 10% intensity, Petrova ordered. Kozlov hesitated only a second before pressing the command. A faint hum filled the chamber as electromagnetic waves pulsed through the containment unit. Inside, the alien tissue reacted. It wasn't alive, not in any biological sense they understood, but it responded. The crystalline fibers within the tissue shimmered, then pulsed once, like a heartbeat echoing through eons. Then again. And again. Shut it down, Orlov said urgently. Now. Petrova ignored him. Increase to 15%. No, Orlov snapped. You're pushing too fast. Volkov stepped forward. Dr. Petrova, I will not tolerate insubordination or recklessness. I'm not being reckless, she shot back. I'm doing science. The pulse increased. The chamber lit up. And then the world shattered. A high-pitched frequency, beyond human hearing, erupted from the containment unit. Glass cracked. Instruments sparked. One of the junior researchers collapsed mid-step, clutching his ears as blood trickled from his nose. Kozlov screamed, a short, sharp cry, before falling to her knees. Petrova staggered back, heart pounding. Cut power. Kozlov slammed the emergency stop button. The machine died instantly. Silence returned, thick, heavy, unnatural. But something else lingered. In the observation room above, the lights flickered erratically. Monitors blinked out one by one, then rebooted with corrupted data streams. And deep below, beneath the excavation site, the alien ship emitted a single, low-frequency vibration. A hum. Not mechanical. Biological. Colonel Volkov's radio crackled to life. Sir, came the voice of the perimeter guard. We've got movement in the hull. Internal systems are waking up. He turned to Petrova, fury burning behind his eyes. What did you do? She faltered. I don't know. Orlov, pale and shaking, stared at the containment unit. The sample still pulsed, slower now, but steady. As if it were listening. No, he whispered. It's not just reacting. It's responding. Outside the lab, footsteps echoed down the corridor, boots on metal floors. Then voices. Orders were shouted in Russian. Someone was coming. Volkov moved swiftly to the door, drawing his sidearm. "Lock this place down," he barked. "No one enters or leaves until I find out what the hell is going on." Petrova knelt beside the fallen researcher. His breathing was shallow, his pupils dilated, and he was unresponsive to light. "He's alive," she murmured. "But..." She trailed off. Because the man's lips were moving. Forming words. In a language none of them recognized. Kozlov groaned beside her, stirring. When she opened her eyes, there was something strange in them, a flicker, like static on a television screen. "Do you hear it?" she whispered. Petrova exchanged a horrified glance with Orlov. "Hear what?" he asked. Kozlov didn't answer. Instead, she smiled. Coldly. As if someone, or something, had just found a way inside. The underground lab was eerily silent in the aftermath of the pulse. Only the soft hum of failing equipment filled the sterile air. One researcher still lay unconscious on the floor, his breathing shallow but steady. Another stirred, eyes fluttering open, but it was Lieutenant Anya Kozlov who rose first, standing with unsettling grace. Dr. Elena Petrova knelt beside the fallen man, checking his vitals. "He's alive," she murmured, though her voice carried no relief. She looked up at Professor Mikhail Orlov, who stood frozen near the containment unit, staring at the pulsing alien tissue like it might speak to him. "We need to move this sample," he said finally. "To a deeper vault. Away from people." Colonel Alexander Volkov entered the room, his face hard as stone. "You've done enough for now." Petrova shot to her feet. "We are just beginning to understand what we've found." "No," his voice was low, dangerous. "You triggered something. And now I need answers." Before she could protest, a crackle came through his radio. "Colonel," a soldier reported, "we've got a breach in security. Someone accessed the classified DNA files during the chaos. Dr. Grigoriev says they're missing." Volkov's jaw tightened. "Lock down the facility. No one leaves until I find out who did this." Petrova turned sharply. "Are you accusing us of sabotage?" "I'm accusing no one," he said. "Yet." Orlov muttered under his breath, "Sabotage might not be the right word. Influence is more accurate." Petrova frowned. "What do you mean?" He gestured toward Kozlov, who had wandered back to the observation window, staring down at the excavation chamber where the alien ship rested beneath layers of ice. "She's been different since the pulse," Orlov whispered. "Like she heard something the rest of us didn't." Kozlov didn't react when they approached. Her eyes were fixed on the dark metal hull below. "I remember things," she said softly. "Things I never learned." Petrova exchanged a glance with Orlov. Then the lights flickered again. A low vibration echoed through the walls. And somewhere deep within the ship, something shifted. Back in the control room, Volkov reviewed the security footage with grim determination. The grainy black and white feed showed someone entering the lab during the pulse event, a figure in a Soviet uniform, moving with quiet purpose. The face was blurred, indistinct. But then, the technician Dmitry Sokolov, a quiet, obedient worker, appeared on another monitor, slipping through a side corridor carrying a sealed container labeled with biohazard symbols. Volkov slammed the desk. "Find him. Now." Within minutes, Sokolov was intercepted near the surface exit. He didn't resist when guards tackled him to the ground. In his possession, stolen samples, encrypted notes, and a small radio tuned to an unknown frequency. When brought before Volkov, Sokolov looked dazed. "Who sent you?" the colonel demanded. Sokolov blinked slowly. "I don't know." "You were heading for the border," Volkov pressed. "Why?" Sokolov opened his mouth, then closed it. His hands trembled. "I don't remember," he whispered. "But I think something told me to." Across the base, alarms began to sound. In the excavation chamber, sensors detected a new signal, not from Earth, not from any known satellite. It pulsed once, then again, matching the rhythm of the alien tissue in the lab. And then, for the first time since discovery, the ship responded. Its outer shell shifted. Panel slid open just slightly, revealing glowing circuitry beneath the frost-covered hull. Inside the lab, Kozlov walked past the containment unit again. This time, she stopped. She placed her hand against the glass. Behind her, the symbol etched into the wall beside the door began to glow faintly. Her lips curled into a smile, not warm, not human. And she whispered, "It's not waking up. It's remembering." The underground facility was no longer just a research base. It had become a crucible. Deep beneath layers of ice and steel, the alien ship pulsed like a living heart. Panels along its outer hull slid open with mechanical grace, revealing glowing circuitry that shimmered with an inner light. It wasn't waking up, it was remembering how to breathe. In the control room above, alarms blared intermittently as systems failed one by one. Lights flickered erratically. Radios crackled with static that sounded almost like voices, whispering in a language none of them understood. But someone did. Lieutenant Anya Kozlov stood at the edge of the excavation chamber, staring down at the ship like it was calling her name. Her breath came slow and steady, matching the rhythm of the vessel's pulse. "Anya," Dr. Elena Petrova called out, stepping forward cautiously. "What are you doing?" Kozlov didn't turn around. "I'm listening." Professor Mikhail Orlov entered behind Petrova, his face pale. He held a tablet displaying the decoded symbols he'd managed to translate from inside the ship. His voice was barely above a whisper. "It's not wreckage," he said. "It's a message. A beacon. And we've triggered its response." Petrova turned sharply. "Explain." Orlov swallowed hard. "This isn't just technology. It's biological. Designed to integrate. To adapt. We thought we were studying it. But it was studying us." Below, the ship emitted a low-frequency resonance that vibrated through the floor. The equipment shorted out. Monitors blinked off, then rebooted with corrupted data streams. Colonel Alexander Volkov stormed into the room, gun drawn, eyes scanning for threats. "We are evacuating non-essential personnel. Now." "No," Petrova said firmly. "Not until we understand what's happening." Volkov pointed at Kozlov. "She's not herself. None of this is normal." As if on cue, a scream echoed from the lab. They ran. Inside, one of the fallen researchers, the man who had collapsed during the pulse, was convulsing violently on the floor. His limbs stretched unnaturally. His skin darkened, veins pulsing with a faint bioluminescent glow. His eyes opened wide, black, empty. He spoke. Not in Russian. Not in any known language. But Kozlov responded. Fluently. Her voice was calm, almost reverent. "He's changing," she said. "Like the rest of us will." Petrova dropped to her knees beside the man. His breathing slowed. His body stilled. But when she checked his pulse, she found something impossible. He was alive. And yet, different. Orlov stared at the containment unit where the alien tissue still pulsed steadily. "This isn't just DNA," he murmured. "It's code. Instructions. A blueprint." Petrova looked up. "For what?" "For us," he whispered. Outside the lab, a technician burst in, panting. "Sir. Something's transmitting from the ship." Volkov turned. "Transmitting what?" "We don't know. But it's going into space." Orlov rushed to the control panel. He scanned the outgoing signal, frequency, pattern, trajectory. His hands trembled as he realized what it meant. "They are not sending a distress call," he said. "They are reporting back." Petrova's stomach twisted. To whom? To wherever they came from. Volkov grabbed the radio. "Shut it down. Cut all power." The technician hesitated. "We tried. It's overriding every command." Above them, the lights dimmed again. Then, silence. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, not from speakers, not from machines. From the ship itself. Kozlov stepped closer to the observation window, placing her palm against the glass. The symbol etched into the wall beside her began to glow. She closed her eyes. And smiled. "They heard us," she whispered. Behind her, the researcher stirred once more. His lips moved, forming a single word. Hello.